What's up, people? Welcome to another exciting edition of the Black and Gold Hour podcast, a podcast where we talk New Orleans Saints football. And there's a lot to talk about. It's been a crazy 2 weeks for the New Orleans Saints, and many fans' expectations are either heightened, very high still, or very, very low at this point. Today is just it's one of those moments. It's a turning point in the season coming up this Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's a lot to unpack here. We got Sean Payton, who's voicing frustration. We got Saints fans voicing frustration. And it's a lot going on, but we're excited to see where the New Orleans Saints team is headed. And this team is still 5-4. So to help me talk about New Orleans Saints football today, I got my guy Vibe here, man. Appreciate you for coming on, man. I appreciate him. I always ask him like last minute, like, yo, can you come on? And he's always down to talk Saints football. This is my fellow Saints fan from the DMV, so I'm glad that I can bring him on today, man. Appreciate you for coming on, bro.
Thank you for having me, bro. You know I'm always excited to come on.
Yeah, man, and I needed his opinion. I told him before the show started, just give me your honest thoughts because it's a lot to talk about. I got my boy Jerry here. Appreciate you for coming on, bro. Who dat? But let's get into it, man. Vibe, I gotta ask you, man. There's a lot of skeptics going on. If you're on Saints Twitter, there's a lot of differing of opinions going on. There are those like myself who still believe that the Saints are in the playoff hunt. They're still a competitive team. And then there are others who believe, hey, maybe the Saints should tank for what? I'm not sure. But there are other people who also believe that maybe this just isn't the year for the New Orleans Saints. But I got to ask you, Vibe, before I give my opinion, what is your thoughts and what are your new expectations for this New Orleans Saints team?
I never felt like I really came into the season expecting us to go to a Super Bowl or nothing. Like I wasn't expecting that this year. But at the same time, I will say I do know we have like a Super Bowl roster. It's just our quarterback situation. And now we can kind of see like without Michael Thomas, like we know for sure he's not coming this season. So it's just like you're out with him too. So things kind of definitely shift for the worse, I would say.
Right.
I think we will all say that right now. Things have definitely shifted for the worse. We lost Jameis Winston for the season. I bet nobody was really expecting that because I definitely wasn't. But I still don't think like we should tank. Like I still think we have enough. Like we definitely have a Super Bowl defense, and I was encouraged by what I saw this week again. I mean, with the team on offense. So I think things will slowly start getting better.
Yeah, man. And honestly, going into this season, I was, even with Jameis as the projected quarterback, man, I was still pretty high on what the New Orleans Saints could do. I knew that the only position group that we needed help with mostly was just the wide receiver group. We've yet to receive some help for that position group, and that's kind of been the Achilles heel of the team. But I knew that we had the quarterback who had the talent in Jameis Winston. We had the defense who's playing well on all levels. It's just that this season, things haven't come together on the offensive end as we expected because the Saints do not have a playmaker at the wide receiver position outside of Taysom Hill at times and even Alvin Kamara. So, I mean, the Saints are still a playoff team. They're 5-4. I still believe that the Saints do have what it takes to be competitive in an NFC that's not really that competitive. And even with Trevor Sermon being quarterback, man, I still thought that we had enough to, even if we get into the playoffs, we can make something happen. When the playoffs start, it's any man's game. So I still believe the New Orleans Saints can do that. But the New Orleans Saints have to find an identity on the offensive end, man. And when it comes to the offense, man, many of our favorite Saints fans, especially from Saints Twitter, I mean, they kind of fell off the wagon. They fell off our team's bandwagon when Jameis Winston went out with injury, man. I got to ask you, what do you think about Trevor Sermon and how do you think he's played so far, man?
A lot better than I thought he would be playing, honestly. Like when I'm telling you, every time I saw his name on the roster, like I was like, why the hell do we have Trevor Sermon? Like I was not a fan of Trevor Sermon at all. So like I said, I was there the Bucks game. So in the stadium, I'm thinking like, oh, I pray Jameis is okay because we're about to lose if Trevor Sermon has to finish this game out. And he played great. Like even these past couple games, like he's been playing great. Like I mean, he took those bad sacks and at the end of the half, and I was like, that was bad. But that I feel like that's his worst play. Like I
Right.
don't feel like he's really been throwing the game away. He definitely hasn't. Like it's been other people on the team you could say more have thrown the game away than he has, and that's a good thing to say when that's your starting quarterback for right now. Because I don't think he's gonna shift to Taysom Hill right now.
Right, man. And I gotta just be honest with you. I really like Trevor Simeon's game, and maybe I'm still riding the high of that Tampa Bay Bucks game, man. That was probably one of my favorite games of all time. The electricity, you could feel it from my house. And Trevor Simeon did his thing, and he's been doing his thing all week with what he has to work with. I mean, he was out without Alvin Kamara in Tennessee. The Saints did get Mark Ingram back, who was able to create some plays, but Trevor Simeon is putting the ball where it needs to be. He's not making decisions. He hasn't thrown those interceptions yet, and even the one he did throw was called back against the Bucks. So I'm glad to see what Trevor Simeon's able to do. But the wide receiver group is just not getting it done, man. And I gotta ask you, as we talk about like the New Orleans Saints, we got to talk about coaching, and we hear Sean Payton voice his frustration, but there's been a lot of frustration from Who Dat Nation regarding Sean Payton, man. And I got to ask you about yesterday's game, and I'm sure you was watching it. The Saints possession before their last possession, it's 12-23. The New Orleans Saints are in their own goal line, and they kicked the field goal with Brian Johnson, who had already missed 2-point attempts. In your opinion, do you believe the New Orleans Saints should have just went for it on fourth down? Like, what was your opinion going through that last, red zone kind of opportunity for the Saints?
I can understand, I feel like both reasons why we kicked it and why people are also mad that we didn't go for it. I feel like if you in Sean Payton's shoes and you just see how this offense runs, it's not great. Like it's amazing that anything happens on offense to me. Like honestly, like
Right.
every time they catch a pass, I'm really ready to tweet just because it's such a shocker that they caught it. Like I mean, minus certain people, like you kind of expect Marquez Callaway or Deontay Harris to come down with passes every once in a while, but anybody else, it's just like it's a shock factor every time. So, I thinking that Sean Payton, I would understand completely. Let's just put points up on the board because we don't even get down the field that often unless the defense gives us a good field position. So I definitely understand putting the points on the board. Now on the other side of it, I could understand going for it anyway because the offense also doesn't get down the field. Like why
Right.
not? Like you already right here. I think that's why people are already just like, well, if you would have just went for it, then maybe we would have got the touchdown and then we wouldn't have been in the situation in the end. But also, if you don't kick that field goal, you wouldn't have been in the situation you were in the end if Adam Troutman doesn't jump. Like that's still you're still in a winnable game or at least to tie it at that point, you in perfect position. So
Yeah, man. And I
it's
gotta go.
understandable.
I gotta go with your second line, your second point about how the fact the offense was down in the red zone after struggling for almost 2 quarters before that. I'm going for it. I mean, and you got to bring Taysom in. I think Who Dat Nation was just lost because typically we see, Taysom Hill come in at all times of the game, and for some reason he was missing in that whole possession in the red zone. I'm like, where's the QB power? He was obliterated. They couldn't stop him. He was running all over him, and it was just one of those situations where I'm like, it's just another situation where I'm head scratching, and I've been head scratching this whole season because it's one of those things where I feel like, what did they see in this offense in the offseason to make them believe that wide receiver wasn't a priority? I mean, we went to the 7th-round draft pick in Kawan Baker, but there is nobody on the wide receiver group outside of Deontay Harris who is making consistent plays. I mean, even Marquez, he's making plays. He does make plays, and Traquan did step up, but they're not consistent enough for the New Orleans Saints to skip over the 15 to 20 wide receiver draft pick prospects that were available and across the board and who are making plays across the NFL this year. So it's just very frustrating as we get into the Saints being 5-4. But let me ask you about the loss. Did you feel just as bad as you did after the Atlanta Falcons loss?
No, I was about to say kinda, but at the end of the day, I feel like I would say no, just because the Titans are a good team for one, so it's
Right.
not like I mean, I kind of didn't expect us to win the game anyway. Like I was really, yeah, I just wasn't expecting much. I just felt like the offense wasn't going to be able to do it against the Titans, really.
Right, right.
And that's all it really came down to, honestly. Like I just didn't feel like it was a winnable game for us at that point. It was no Alvin Kamara too. Meanwhile, Mark Ingram did do decent. Like Mark Ingram still has juice for sure, and I think he's a great sidekick to Alvin Kamara right now. But yeah, I just didn't. I wasn't super mad. More than anything, I just feel like we all got more upset just because how close we got to actually winning.
Right.
Like
And
you
I
didn't even expect us to be that close. Like you kind of expected what was going on in the game, and then for us to come back and Trevor Siemian to play as well as he did to get us in the position to win. Like that's something that needs to be brought up too. Like we making judgments on Trevor Siemian, but you got to look at just the same thing we were saying about Jameis. Look at the receivers he has. It's just like he's still making something happen with this little bit of talent. So it's just like you got to give him his props on that. Like I said, but more than anything, uh that's why I was disappointed, just because how close we actually got to win.
Right, right, right. And I see Jerry and Beacon. Jerry just said, I'm okay after Sunday. Beacon said, I wasn't expecting us to win either. So they kind of agree with you, Vibe, on, Sundays, your final thoughts on Sunday. And I kind of got to touch on the New Orleans Saints and something that you brought up. If this isn't the year for the Saints, I think the frustration builds for Saints fans because the Saints, they fight so hard. They're 5-4, they're in the playoffs. And instead of them having a losing season, they're so close. They build us up so high. And then ultimately you remember, hey, this team does not have like wide receivers that can create plays. And I think that's where the frustration comes from for me, because it's like, if they were to just lose, they just go, 0-16, that's one thing, but they're still in the hunt. And so we still get, really attached to the games, and every moment they're like in the Tennessee game, they were riding it up until the end, and one bad call away for potentially tying the game, and who knows what happens in overtime. But there is one player that we got to talk about who may have been the big factor in us not making it to overtime, and that's Adam Troutman. And man, I got to ask you, Sean Payton talked about players that are consistently making mistakes and not making plays on the offense. How do you feel about Adam Troutman?
This is a difficult kind of question, I feel like. I mean, just after yesterday, I mean, was it, yeah, yesterday's game? Just after yesterday's game, I feel like it's kind of a more complicated question now, just because I felt like he was making plays in the beginning half of the game. And then towards the second half, it was just back to what we've seen the rest of the week. And then for that last play for you to jump, like that's the worst thing you can do at that point. Like this is your last shot to tie this game so you can take it to overtime. Like y'all haven't been playing good the whole game. So like that's just a terrible play. And I think that play is so terrible that it kind of wipes out everything he did in the beginning half of the game. Just because, like I say, that's a play that can potentially tie you the game, and you jump, you just jump. Like it's a terrible play. Like yeah, that he definitely, something has to happen with him.
Right, right, right. And that's the sign of a bad team. When you're jumping off sides and stuff like that. We remember games we used to play the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons would have like 10 penalties in the game. That's a sign of a bad football team. And the New Orleans Saints are doing just that right now. And I honestly think, with the Adam Troutman call, that's just one of those unacceptable things. There are a couple of things for me that I believe are unacceptable when it comes to mistakes. You're a professional football player. We're all professionals in our own right, and we have to know how to do our job. People not lining up where they need to be, people, jumping off sides in critical situations. It's just one of those things where I don't even know what Coach Sean Payton says at this point, but I know something has to change in order for the New Orleans Saints to stay the 6th seed in the NFC. And when we kind of think about the NFC, the New Orleans Saints are still they're still in the playoffs. The playoffs started today. They would play most likely, I want to say, the Dallas Cowboys. So it's still a team where We can't have those penalties. If you want to be on the outside looking in the playoffs, you don't want that. This team is still can get there. And I also believe that once you get to the playoffs, it's any man's game. So New Orleans Saints have to clean that up. With Adam Troutman, I was very high on him, bro. Like, and you remember we talked about it. Like, I was
Yeah.
very high on Adam Troutman, like his footwork, just a couple of his things that he showed last season. But now it's like somebody kind of threw something out there. Was like, man, maybe Juwan Johnson should be more of the focal point tight end. I mean, he's made plays. When the ball is thrown his way, he's caught it. I think he had the first catch of yesterday's game against Trevor Siemian. So, I mean, why not have Juwan Johnson go out there and see what he can do more? I'm sure he's been out there, but I definitely want to see more from him. And hey, maybe Adam Troutman a couple games, with limited snaps, may snapping back into action, man. But I gotta ask you, man, what's a positive that Saints fans can take away, man? Like, still a lot of football left. What's a positive about the New Orleans Saints that you believe Saints can carry into this game against the Eagles?
I think a big thing is I'll start with Trevor Siemian, like the way he's played these last couple games, to be thrown into a situation like how he was thrown into his first game. Like, he's definitely showed poise at the quarterback position. So I think we can all be happy and positive about that. Um, I will say in the beginning of this game and even towards the end, I feel like they're starting, like the receivers, especially Traquan Smith. Like, I feel like they're starting to try to catch a groove. Like, they're trying. I can at least say I feel like
Mm-hmm.
they're actually trying to get better. Like, because I know, like, I watched Marquez Callaway's interview, I think, uh heading into this week's game,
Mm-hmm.
and he was just like, he sounded sad, like, about the OBJ stuff, because I know, like, he keeps saying, like, he was saying, like, people are DMing him and stuff about how bad they're playing and all of that, and I'm like, well, I definitely feel like they're trying their best to get better, so I'm encouraged by that. I think we have a team, just the environment we have, even having Mark Ingram back, I feel like all of that just helps the team a lot also, just because I feel like it'll just boost their confidence, and everybody will just, I feel like we have a hardworking team. Like, we know our team is trying their best. Like, I don't feel like anybody's just being lazy.
Right. And I'm going to kind of agree with you. One positive that I'm going to take away, we already know about the Saints defense, man. I'm going to go with Trevor Siemian, man. Trevor Siemian has showed what he could do. I'm watching the national broadcast, watching a couple of other games while watching the Saints game. People are raving about what Trevor Siemian's doing. I mean, he's out here. You got to think he's out here without his main weapon, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, and he's making it work. He's making the right reads, making the right decisions, not turning the ball over, which is the most important thing, especially when you have an offense that is in a slump and you have a defensive-led team. You can't turn the ball over. Trevor Siemian's doing that, man. I'm impressed with everything I see from him. I actually have confidence going into games with him. And I believe the Saints can go. I didn't believe the Saints season was over when Jameis went out. Now, there are things that Jameis can do that Trevor can't do, but this team was already defensively led. I mean, it's not like Jameis was putting up 40 points anyway. So it's like, I'm excited to see what Trevor does, but we got to talk about one man on the offense that New Orleans Saints fans know, and that he did have a good game yesterday, Mark Ingram, man. And I got to ask you, he's now the all-time leading rusher for the New Orleans Saints, just past Deuce McAllister, who, by the way, was my first Saints jersey. Deuce McAllister, man, one of my favorite players, man. Just love the way he played with him and Reggie, especially in that 2006 season, man. I got to ask you, what does Mark Ingram mean to you as a Saints fan?
Mark Ingram, I kind of feel like I can remember Mark Ingram a lot more than I can really remember being around Reggie Bush and Deuce McAllister.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I feel like I started really paying attention to football around the time Mark Ingram was our lead back and stuff. And I love Mark Ingram. Like, I've loved him since he left the team. Like, I was never a person saying, "Oh, Mark,
Mm-hmm.
you left us." Like, no, I know he loves the city. I'm not even from New Orleans, but I know he loves the city. I know he loves the community. I know he loves the team. So I've always loved Mark as a player. And then I pay attention to the Trust Levels podcast. I just like him and Cam Jordan as people. Like, they're definitely fun to watch, and they have insightful things to say a lot of times too. I feel like they both could be great, like, commentators one day when they when they finish their football careers.
Right, right,
But
right.
yeah, I really like Mark Ingram.
Yeah, that's my guy, man. And I remember when Mark was drafted, man. I remember where I was. I was in high school with my team, and I got the thing. Reggie Bush tweeted, you know, take care of New Orleans or something like that. And I knew we had drafted a running back, and that was it for the Reggie Bush era. So immediately, that's how I remember Mark Ingram starting. And then I remember his first couple seasons. Saints fans like, man, we got Mark Ingram. We'd be frustrated, and then his development, he began to develop and get better, and the Saints began to develop and get better. And then we finally got Alvin Kamara. And then we kind of finally got that boom and zoom. And Mark Ingram began to put up those 1,000-yard seasons. And, you know, we know what he brings to the locker room, man. And when he left, as usual, it's in the middle of my workday. I get the text, Mark Ingram is going to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm disappointed. And I knew he would leave a dagger in the Saints locker room, because you knew exactly what he meant to the New Orleans Saints team. He is the energy. I couldn't see the New Orleans Saints getting too far without Mark Ingram being in the locker room. And I'm glad he's back now. And I hope he finishes his career here. I'm pretty sure he will, man. I love to hear just stories about how he stand with Teron Armstead and Kenny Stills, because he means so much to the city. He means so much to the team. Even if he ran for 0 yards yesterday, him just being on the team is all that we need to, you know, be energized and come out as the dominant team that we are. But hopefully the New Orleans Saints could get that win this Sunday against the Eagles. I got people texting me like, man, y'all about to take this W. So y'all about to take this L. So, you know, we gotta beat these Eagles. It's honestly a must win at this point for the New Orleans Saints. They got to stay in this playoff hunt. It's a lot of teams on the outside looking in. The New Orleans Saints got to do what they need to do. The NFC South is blessing the New Orleans Saints by taking losses 2 weeks in a row as well, with the Bucs losing in a terrible game to the Washington football team. And Carolina was the only team that was victorious yesterday with the return to Cam Newton. Man, I got to ask you, how you feel about that return to Cam Newton?
I don't like it. Not at all.
Yo, I'm a big football fan.
I mean, I'm happy for Cam Newton just as a black person, but not of him being in my division. I was happy with him on the Patriots. I was like, great, no more Cam Newton. Don't have to worry about that. And like, no, I don't like that he's back. But I also, I mean, that's just a comment about the Panthers, not really about Cam Newton. But I feel like they're running Christian McCaffrey in the ground, so I don't feel like Cam Newton can do so much without Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
Or the Panthers in general.
Right. And that's kind of the thing I'm scared about with Alvin Kamara. I'm like, we need some players. We weren't able to pick up OBJ. Fair enough. Los Angeles. It's a good place to make some money, and a contender in the NFC for sure. So I definitely understand his decision. I wish he would have came home, because we need all the help we can get, because we can't run Alvin Kamara into the ground, man. But we're going to see what this New Orleans Saints team does. Trust me, and Vi will be back after the Eagles game to talk about what's going on with the New Orleans Saints. I'm sure it's going to be some big news this week, especially with players maybe being shifted and some personnel changes being present on the New Orleans Saints. So thank you guys for checking out the show. I want to really shout out my guys, B Con and Jerry Poor, for sticking with us today on the live and chatting and just sharing their opinions, man. I appreciate them coming on and showing support. I want to appreciate everyone who watches this show later on, man. We're going to be back and bringing you guys more Saints content. But thank you guys for checking out the show. Be blessed. Who dat?